Bonsoir à tous. I want to welcome everybody who's here tonight. My name is Larry Miller. I am the president of the French-American Chamber of Ohio. And I want to thank all of you who have come tonight. Some new friends, some old friends, some of our sponsors, many of our members have come to join us tonight, our volunteers, current and past board members. We're delighted all of you are here this evening, and we hope you enjoy your evening. In particular, I want to welcome, at the beginning of my remarks, one guest that we have with us this evening. We have joining us tonight the Consul General, the General Counsel for France for the Midwest, who is based in Chicago and has become a tremendous friend of Cleveland and of the French-American Chamber of Commerce. So I want to welcome Yannick Tardon to our event this evening. So thank you. So the story we'd like to tell you tonight is the story of the FACC, the past, the present, and the future. When I first moved to France, I was told, the very first phrase I learned when I went to work in France was, "Il faut connaître l'histoire." That you Americans come over here with all your great ideas, but before you start putting all your new ideas in place, you have to know the history. So it's my honor tonight to tell you just a little bit about the history of the FACC, which 30 years ago today came into being. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was standing in the center of the city of Rouen, which is the capital of Normandy in France, and is the sister city of Cleveland. And I was standing there with 350 people from Cleveland, because we were there with the marching band from Shaker Heights, and 100 other people who came along for that trip. During our visit there, we had a wonderful Zoom meeting between the Port of Cleveland and the ports of Paris, Rouen, and Le Havre. We had wonderful visits at some of the culinary institutes there. And I remember standing there in front of the Cathedral of Rouen, which, as many of you know, was one of Monet's favorite subjects. At many times of the day, he would paint that cathedral. I remember standing there thinking that the FACC and the sister city relationship between Cleveland and Rouen has come a long, long way in 30 years and continues to make a difference in the lives of people here and in Normandy. And so that's the story that I want to tell you about. That's what we're here to celebrate tonight. Our beginnings, our past, and our present situation and our future. In talking about the past of the FACC, 30 years ago, there were some founding board members, a couple of whom are here with us this evening. Larry Novak is here. Josh Nurley is here. There were a couple of other of the founders who are not with us, Arnie Delaporte, Don Esserov, and many other people who in the early days were responsible for getting the FACC started. They got us making business connections with different companies. They established the tradition of every year doing a Beaujolais Nouveau celebration and celebrating Bastille Day, the national holiday, in July. A tradition that we carry forward to this day. Those are two of our most important events every year. And in getting in touch with various companies during those days, the founders reached out to the Lubrizol Corporation, and a number of Lubrizol executives came on board, but one of them in particular came on board and gave way to the second phase of our history, which I call the Yannick phase. For those of you who knew Yannick Lecouydic, who is an executive from Lubrizol, he came on after his retirement. He came on as our executive director of the chamber. And he was just an absolutely fascinating man, a very dynamic, very passionate, very energetic, a strategic thinker. And he really brought the FACC to a wonderful state in its existence. And he brought on some other board members. He brought on people like from Lubrizol, like Maurice Olivier, Patrick Saunier, Mark Sutherland, myself. And he brought along a woman by the name of Anne-Marie Saunier, who became our administrative helper and who was responsible for the success of so many FACC projects over the year and events. And Yannick he brought on some other board members like Anne Capel from Air France, Cindy Hazelton, who I think may be in the room tonight. Cindy, hello Cindy. Holly Riley, John Marino, who's our treasurer to this day, Charlie Pillan. We have a couple of other former board members who are here with us this evening. Emily Poix is in the back of the room. Philippe Benard is here. So Yannick and the board continue to accomplish a lot. I would say the most important and crowning achievement of the Yannick period and the founding period of the Chamber was the creation of the sister city relationship between Cleveland and Rouen in 2008. For as many of you know, Lubrizol, Lincoln Electric, MTD, and some other companies have headquarters here in Cleveland, but also have operations in and around Rouen. There's also another Cleveland connection with Rouen that gave way to the sister city relationship. In the First World War, some doctors and nurses from largely from the University Hospital and some other places in Cleveland went over, were the very first Americans to arrive in France for the First World War, to set up field hospitals so that when the soldiers showed up, they would have, injured soldiers would have a place to go. The doctors who started that field hospital out of the Lakeside unit became the founders of the Cleveland Clinic. So there's also a connection through the Cleveland Clinic and University Hospital to Rouen. So in 2008, we established that. We had exchanges of delegations we brought the mayor and some staff from Rouen here to Cleveland. Mayor Jackson and some of his team went with us over to Rouen. And in particular, we're especially grateful to a woman who is here this evening, Director Valerie McCall, who was in charge of all the sister city relationships for the city of Cleveland during the Jackson administration, and has long been a friend of the French American Chamber of Commerce. So I want to welcome Valerie here this evening. Unfortunately, just before 2010, Yannick made the very unexpected decision to move his retirement to France, back to France. We thought he would be retired and working at the FACC for the rest of his life, and some of the other board members as well. But he made a decision to return to France. Shortly after that, Warren Buffett's company bought out Lubrizol, purchased Lubrizol, and so a couple of our other board members decided to return to France at that point in time as well. And Anne-Marie Saunier and Patrick Saunier and others returned to France. And this actually created a significant challenge for the FACC, because all of a sudden we didn't have our executive director, we didn't have our administrative staff, and for many years since, we had to learn how to survive and how to work and how to thrive on an all-volunteer army. And so despite the challenges of having an all-volunteer army, in the period of time for the next 10 years, we were able to accomplish a lot. We built partnerships with organizations like Global Cleveland, which was just being founded, Team NEO, Greater Cleveland Partnership, and other regional organizations. We expanded the reach of the FACC to cover not just Cleveland, not just Northern Ohio, but all of Ohio. We did lots of culinary exchanges and cooking exchanges. We took chefs from Cleveland and culinary students and sent them over to Normandy, and we brought some master chefs and culinary students from Normandy and brought them over here to Cleveland as well to learn and to share knowledge with each other and to help us with some of our events. So we had some wonderful events that way. We exchanged other kinds of artists, including the creation of an outside mural next to the West Side Market by the French artist Patrice Marchand. We did exchanges between the hospitals, between University Hospital, the Cleveland Clinic, and the University Hospital of Rouen. Had nurses and doctors exchange. We had an exchange among the Wellness Institute, so we could share best practices in developing the wellness of our people and the people of our communities. We did sports exchanges, including bringing a French kids, young boys baseball team here to play in the Continental Cup here in Cleveland one summer. We developed partnerships, a partnership with the Cleveland Orchestra, which performed in Paris, and we sent a delegation from Rouen that went and took part in that performance and talked with the leadership of the Cleveland Orchestra about possibilities of cooperation in the future, not just in Paris, but maybe someday in Rouen. We continue to do our regular job of putting business people in touch with each other, helping companies in Cleveland to welcome their French expatriates here in the city. And we kept alive the tradition of the Beaujolais Nouveau and Bastille Day. Fortunately, at one of those events, a young couple met. And they ultimately got more involved in the FACC, and I should say more involved with each other. And eventually got married. As many of you know, that couple is Mary and Cedric LaRouge. Cedric is now the honorary consul of France for Northern Ohio. He's also our executive director and a board member at the Chamber of Commerce. And Cedric has helped us launch into our latest phase of the French-American Chamber of Commerce. That is what I call the new and improved FACC. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the plans. But under Cedric's leadership and in our partnership together, during the pandemic, we were able to make some success and take advantage of some new opportunities. We were able to, the pandemic gave us a chance to really reflect about the FACC and think, after the pandemic, what kind of organization do we want to be? What kind of services and activities do we want to sponsor? We developed a new strategic plan, shared it with the board approved it, and we've started to implement that plan. During the pandemic, we were able to leverage tools like Zoom and other video technologies to reach out to members who couldn't participate in the Chamber beforehand, because if you didn't live close to Cleveland in the old days, you couldn't get to our events. But Zoom allowed us to connect with companies and individual members in Toledo, in Youngstown, in Columbus, in Worcester, and other places. So it allowed us to expand our reach. That video technology also allowed us to create some communities around special interests. So we have today an online community of company executives who get together and talk about some of the challenges that they're experiencing and some of the opportunities that they'd like to leverage and share best practices with each other. We have a Women in Leadership organization. We have an education community. We've recently organized a culinary community. So we took advantage of the technology, and we took advantage of this new kind of opportunity to develop these communities, which we will continue to grow in months and years ahead. This expansion also allowed us recently to formalize our presence in Columbus. We have two people with us tonight who are very important to that. So Isabelle Pillet is now a board member, and with her is Jaromir Steiner, who helped develop and build the Easton Town Center shopping center that many of you know on the northeast side of Columbus, and has been just a great friend of the Chamber and has been very helpful to us expanding, and so we're delighted that they can be here with us tonight. And the technology also has allowed us to link the Port of Cleveland with the ports of Paris, Rouen, and Le Havre, an organization called APOPA. So we are working we know all of us in this room know the supply chain problems we had last year of merchandise trying to come through the East Coast, through New York and Baltimore and other ports. We're trying to bypass all of that by creating a direct connection between the Seine River ports and the Port of Cleveland coming through the St. Lawrence Seaway. So that's a project that is in the works, and please stay tuned for developments in that regard. And most importantly, we got approval from our board to launch the most ambitious project we have ever launched at the French-American Chamber. That is the construction of our French Cultural Garden in the cultural gardens of Cleveland along Martin Luther King Boulevard. And I would like to introduce Richard Levitt, who is one of the two architects for that. Richard is right here. I invite you to chat with him. I invite you to take one of our cards home, visit our site, visit our GoFundMe site if you'd like. And in the back of the room, there's a couple of posters that tell you a little bit about that project. It's ambitious, but we are really excited that France will finally have a presence in the cultural garden, which is a unique cultural resource in the world. So that's sort of our history. That brings us to the current day. We have, as part of our strategic plan, we decided recently to expand our board of directors. And so we have several of our board members here this evening. Some I've already introduced, but some I have not. So you know Cedric. Eric Novello is here, who's one of our masterminds for the garden. We brought on Jérémy Clairon and Sandrine Clairon, our first couple on the board, from Lubrizol, who unfortunately are not here this evening. Daniel Mossop from Goodyear, James Trachmy, Larry remains on our board, Larry Nowak. Isabel is on the board. Douglas Palawa is here. Frederic Vaillant from, why am I drawing blank? Target, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I get very nervous when I get in front of crowds and my memory doesn't work. Doug Amberman, who represents the Maison Française. Patrick Ledenma from Speed North America, and who helped organize this evening. Thank you. Isabelle Bivet-Calignac, who could not be with us this evening, Josh Nurley, and Alexandra Miller, who couldn't be with us but also represents Columbus on our board. So, the FACC could not exist without these board members and their leadership. It couldn't exist without all of you as our members and as our partners and our community sponsors and as our friends. I'd like to conclude my remarks tonight with a comment similar to what I said a few weeks ago when we were in Rouen. The mayor of Rouen held a cocktail party, much like this one, for us from Cleveland to welcome the Shaker Heights Marching Band and those of us from the FACC. He made some remarks, talked about how important the sister city relationship is with Cleveland to Rouen. And then I had a chance to stand up and speak on behalf of Cleveland and on behalf of the FACC. And I told the mayor that because we are a chamber of commerce, our mission at the FACC is to build business and economic opportunities and connections and to make that happen. That is first and foremost what we're all about. But because we also have a foundation which focuses on cultural and educational things, we try to create educational and cultural opportunities and exchanges as well. And I told him at the end, in addition to all that, which is all very important, since we've been at this now for 30 years, what we do at the FACC is no longer just a matter of business success. It's not just a matter of cultural exchanges, but for us, it's become a matter of the heart. All of us in this room feel deeply the friendship between France and the USA, and with each other in this room as we build connections between France and the USA. And we want to make sure that that spirit of friendship and collaboration from the heart continues in the months and the years ahead. Because in the end, what we do at the FACC is we introduce people to people. Some of those people are French, some of those people are American, some of them come from other countries. But out of those introductions come opportunity, and sometimes even a marriage. But we want to keep working with all of you and we want to continue to work with all of you and call you our friends so that we can build opportunity here in Ohio and in France. And so I want to thank you all for being here tonight to help us celebrate that spirit. And now I'd like to introduce our Consul General from Chicago, Yannick Tagon.